Vito, I don't know if you know, but Gary Vee is my boss. He owns 1:37 p.m.
If he owns that, that means you do something very, very good.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for making through this. I know the process got a little complicated.
Yeah, no worries, it's all good.
How's your day going? Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me. Day's been good so far. Nothing too out of the ordinary, just a little bit of work and gonna do this and then more work after that, but then plan on enjoying some sunshine.
Awesome. I was going through your Twitter and you said you were super tired, so I hope everything's good now.
Yeah, there was a baseball game on last night that was on until like 1 a.m. So I was too committed. I couldn't turn it off at that point.
Yes.
So it is what it is. I'll be okay.
Were you happy with the results?
No, unfortunately, I was very unhappy with the results. So it was a double whammy. I was tired and we lost. So
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Okay, the first question I wanted to ask you was what made you say yes?
I tend to just say yes to most things, really. I don't think my initial reaction isn't really to say no. I'm a naturally curious person, so someone was like, hey, let's talk. I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm in. That's it. That's all I need. I'm good.
Awesome. I hope you have a great time today. And the first two questions I'm going to ask you are quite long. So you'll see me, like kind of looking at my script a little bit.
Okay.
So I was listening to your podcast episode with Mike, and you guys were talking about, you especially mentioned how valuable and how important it is, that experience when you're working at a minimum wage job, when you're starting right from the bottom. I wanted to know, and I was curious as to what your mindset was when you were working at those jobs, because it requires a different level of confidence, a different level of conviction to believe in yourself when you're in that process, and to believe that these experiences are what is going to lead to those big goals. And especially when you're not seeing results. So I'm curious to know, what was your mindset at that time?
The biggest thing, though, at that time is like self-awareness. I'm 16, 17 years old working a minimum wage job. Like, my expectations shouldn't really be higher than that. If you think like you're a hot shot, or you think you deserve this or that, or you're entitled to this or that at 16, 17, you're crazy. Like, that's what those jobs are there for. And honestly, I feel like that those jobs, like when you're in high school or when you're really young, they make for a lot of great stories that you'll tell later on. And so there's so many people that want to podcast or write or create, and they're like, oh, you have to grind every day, no days off. Well, if you do that, you don't have any stories to tell. You have to live life a little bit. And so that way you can tell things, you can share experiences, you can say, oh, I've been to that country, or, oh, yeah, I love that cuisine, I love that food, whatever it might be. If you don't have those experiences, there's nothing for you to share to people anyway. So I think there's just as much value in gaining the experience outside of the grind world of like social media and content creation.
And at that time, even though you were super interested in sports, did you ever think yourself as someone who would be in the media sector of it?
Yeah, my mom is a public speaker and author. So yeah, I had a pretty good feeling that I would end up over here in some capacity or another. My dad was a sports photographer, and so really you just combine the two, and that's me. So I've known for a pretty good while what I was interested in and what I thought I might be doing.
I see. And you've been in the sports industry since like a decade, but did you ever have like that identity crisis where, do I want to be an athlete, or do I want to be part of that infrastructure that requires to set up games and things like that?
Unfortunately, the market for 5'9" Portuguese athletes is, surprisingly enough, not that interesting. Unfortunately, across the world, they just don't see the potential in 5'9" Portuguese kids as athletes. I'm trying to break that mold, but no, I knew from the beginning being a pro athlete would be incredibly hard. But I do still love to play. I still play soccer every Tuesday. I still am playing pickup basketball every weekend. I still love to box, and I still love to surf and golf. So still staying very active, still loving it. But yeah, I knew pretty early on that I would have to do some pretty remarkable things in order to continue my career as an athlete.
And I was going through your link tree, on your Instagram bio, and I saw that most of the links were your interviews with other people. I was wondering that you've been doing this for a really long time, like you as a radio host or even creating content for other companies. Was there ever a part of you that said that, I want to create content for me? I want to share my story. I want to share my perspective than always being at the other side of, the focal point. Did you ever have that sort of like that identity thing? Or were you actually happy supporting people and lifting people up?
I mean, the long-term goal for sure was, be your own boss, be your own creator, tell your own story. That was always the goal. And I would be transparent to my bosses at those places saying, like, I'm a good worker, but my goal, my vision and like where I'm driven to go is going to be creating my own platform, telling my own story, and being my own boss. I think if you're honest and transparent with them, it's not too big of a deal. But I knew, again, at 16, 17, 18 years old, like, people don't want to listen to your story. You gotta earn that respect and interest over time. And I've met great people along the way helping tell their story. Yeah, so absolutely. Just learning both perspectives is great, because eventually I'll have, or hopefully, I'll have some 17, 18, 19-year-old kid who's helping me tell my story. And I'll know, like, oh, I remember being that person, maybe let me make it easier for you, or here's a lesson you can learn, or whatever it might be. But no, it was never really an issue. It's part of, the first steps. You have to. Everyone has to. That
brings a lot of clarity. Like, your end goal would definitely be where you want to be, like, not the center of focus, but, you want to share your own story and put all that effort in your perspectives, right? And I know, like, one of the most fun parts of doing a podcast is, building a network and interacting with so many people and learning so many new things. So how do you think, like, what's been your biggest learning in this process?
I might have said it to Mike. I don't know if I said it to Mike or not, but so many people, a lot of people want to podcast. A lot of people want to create content. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But the reason that many people do it is because it's hard to do it every week and get out content and edit and set aside time after work to make it happen. But for a lot of those people, I think they say, oh, when I get a job as a podcaster, I'm going to make the best podcast. Or like, when I get a job as a radio host, I'm going to have the best radio show. You can create all of that on your own right now. Don't wait for the job. Prove it now. Prove that you can do it. Prove that you can be the best before you even get the job, and then you will get the job. So many people, I'm like, don't wait. Prove it now. Do it. Make the work you want to get paid to do.
Yeah.
That's the way to view it. So that's been, I don't know, one of my biggest lessons for sure. And the moment I kind of flipped that switch in my head, which was like during the very beginning of COVID and quarantine, I was like, all right, you want to get paid to do this. The work has to be good enough for you to get paid. And ever since then, I feel like I've seen a lot of much better results.
It's amazing. And on that note, how would you say your experience has been working at GMG, and how did you end up landing that job?
It's been amazing. 100 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 20. Like, it's been incredible. I love the collaboration dynamic of GMG. I love working with the people there. They're really supportive. They're open to ideas, which is really cool too. There's so many places, you want to be a content creator, and they're going to tell you, you have to write this article. You have to talk about this. Oh, if you're doing this advertisement, you have to say these words. One of the cooler things with 137 and GMG has been, whatever you think is right is what we're going to go with. That's why we hired you.
Yeah.
So that's been amazing. What was the second half of the question?
How did you land up here? How did you land at the job?
I had been following 137 for like a year and a half, maybe, before COVID hit. And it's so weird. I didn't say it out loud, but I always knew that I was going to work there. That makes no sense, but like, I build these plans in my head, or I have these ideas, and I don't necessarily think of it as like a life plan or whatever. But every single place that I've worked at, I always knew I was going to work at before I got there. So I'm like always building these scenarios in my head, like stories of, what would it look like if you worked there? You know, what would it look like? Then I just try and replicate what it would look like, and then I end up over there. So it's kind of been weird that way, and you wouldn't believe it if you just said like, oh, I knew in my head, but like you put the puzzle pieces together. You're like, oh, this person follows 137. I'm gonna like say what up to them, and then I follow them, and then they have someone, and it's like, I know it's like that's kind of networking, but there's a little bit more like mental planning in there than just networking. So when COVID hit, all sports stopped, right? Everything shut down. Yeah. Sports, music, movies, they all stopped, except MMA and boxing kept going. The UFC said, yo, we're gonna keep making shows. We're gonna take 3 weeks off or 4 weeks off because of COVID, but we're gonna go to Abu Dhabi and have fights there. And I'm a lifelong fight fan. I had been covering fighting before COVID, and I was like, all right, then just do all fighting stuff. So for 6, 7, 8 straight weeks, I just made fighting content, podcasts, videos, Twitter clips. And one day I just sent to 137 in the DMs a year and a half ago. I was like, hey, this is a clip from my podcast. I think our audiences would overlap and do really well together. What do you guys think? And then it just went from there.
Damn.
That was it.
Cool. How big was your audience at that time?
Not that big for the fight world, but like for, you know, I'm 24 now. I was 22 before COVID hit, and I had been with the San Diego Padres radio, which is the baseball team here in San Diego. So I had built a few audience members there, and then I had built a few audience members in Missouri, which is where I went to school, and I had been a sports anchor there, and I had a radio show there for a little bit. So between the two places, like, you know, it wasn't a big audience, but I'm also only 22 at the time, so like it was impossible to have that big of an audience. I was still trying to graduate college, and it was what it was, but just slowly but surely, one more, and then one Twitter clip would do well, and then like you reply to someone's comment, then that one gets retweeted, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this kid's actually content is okay, and 2 thumbs up from me. I'm happy. So
that's amazing. I'm super happy for you. And in just along those story, how would you talk about 2 topics? One would be believing in yourself, and the other one would be luck.
Gotta get lucky. I mean, the luck thing, and the truth is I don't know. I don't know how much like you can control luck, but it does seem like there are people who get lucky over and over and over. And if it was just luck, then that wouldn't make sense. Someone wouldn't get lucky over and over and over. So that makes me think sometimes it's not luck. Like you have some control of it per se. On the other hand, it's got to be right place, right time. Like taking an elevator with someone, and you could have been 30 seconds late. You could have like checked Twitter on your phone, missed that elevator, and then missed that conversation, which is a little bit like the butterfly effect. You know, you miss one thing and everything else afterwards would have been affected. So yeah, luck's really important. I can't decide how random luck is. And then in terms of self-belief, you're either a really confident person that just has faith in yourself from the beginning, or you gain the self-belief and confidence through hard work. It's one of the two. Some people can do it before they work hard. I would say for the most part, though, you get confident because of the reps you put in, and eventually, like, you know, the first 10 times you do a podcast, you're really nervous beforehand. And then the next 20 times, you're still like, okay, like you're excited and energetic. Then after that, though, you become more and more comfortable and you're used to it. And then certain things in the beginning that you would think about a lot are second nature. And then you get to work on the other parts of podcasting or interviewing. So it's all tied together, but figure out what kind of person you are. Do you need the work to be confident, or do you know from the beginning it is binding, I'm good at this, I'm going to do it? And it might be delusional, but it works for a lot of people.
Thank you for sharing that story. I feel like I genuinely learned like 2 really important lessons there, that, you know, people have dreams and stuff, but then if you don't have the belief to bet on your own self, like if you didn't think that you're good enough to get into 1:37 p.m., you would have not even applied and you would have completely missed that opportunity. And also someone could just say that you got lucky, but you put in a lot of work to educate yourself in terms of, even strategizing that, fighting is life. I'm going to create content around it. Not a lot of people were doing it at that time. I'm going to DM them, so like connecting all the dots and putting in that effort, and you crafted your own opportunity. It was not like someone came and they gave it to you like, hey, Bo, like go thrive on it. But for you to believe in yourself and actually work hard at it, and then the serendipity of the moment happens, like the universe will reward you or something like that. So I feel like that was a really important story and a lot to learn from there. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no, thank you. It makes you feel better too, to be honest. Like, not that there's anything wrong with like nepotism, when, someone hands you down a job from your mom or dad. Like, I really don't think there's anything wrong with it, but there is a different feeling you get when you create it yourself. And it's not the end of the world if you're handed down a job from a parent or family or whatever it might be. But at the same time, like, creating something and doing it yourself, like, is so fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, what would you say is your story as a person, from when you were born to today?
The whole story as a person?
Whole story as a person.
Work-wise, like at 5 years old, me and my cousins would do sports reporting in front of the family. Like, really, from 5 years old, I kind of knew that it was something I was really interested in. Also, as a kid, I was really good at talking to adults. So even at a really young age, sometimes like even on like little league baseball teams or soccer teams, I was very comfortable talking to adults and coaches. So I like history. I have an appreciation for the past. So that, I guess, would be part of it. My family's a big part of my story. Mom's the speaker, dad's a sports photographer. My sister's a hilarious, shy comedian. Like, she won't embrace it and try and become a comedian, but she's as funny as one is. My older brother had an impact on my movies and music. And then my friends throughout high school were all like sports geniuses. Like, all of them are working in sports now. So it's not a mystery. Like, I really think, like, if you look at my life, nothing's a mystery. It's very much like face value what it is, and like just trusting that intuition and gut, sent me down the right place. I would just say it's at its face value. There's no secret to it. There's no mystery behind the scenes. It's exactly what it looks like.
And you mentioned about your brother influenced your music taste. So what's your favorite kind of music?
Yeah, I do really like old school hip hop, like 90s old school hip hop. So Dr. Dre's, Chronic 2001, a lot of Nate Dogg. So yeah, he was a DJ in downtown San Diego for a lot of years. So he was really into music. And I would say hip hop is my favorite genre.
Okay, so what would you say are your top 5 artists?
There is no right answer here. Okay, there's 0 right answers. No matter what, you're gonna make someone mad. J. Cole is in my top 5. Dr. Dre as a producer is in my top 5. Drake just has too many incredible songs to not make a top 5. I want to put Kendrick Lamar in here. I just don't know if he makes enough music. It's very frustrating. Like, he's teasing a new album right now, but he hasn't put out music in like 3.5 years. So I'll wait. I'll put Jay-Z in there. I really like the Black Album by Jay-Z. And I'm going to put in Gangstar, which is a hip-hop group from Texas.
Oh, are they like up and coming and new?
No, they're from the 90s, and they have like a really distinct like production sound. And so the DJ Premier is like one of the greatest hip-hop producers of all time, but I love their work. I'll send you a couple songs. Like, it's called Above the Clouds is really good. Right Where You Stand by Gangstar is really good. Moment of Truth, The Militia. Yeah, actually confirmed. Gangstar is in my top 5.
Please do send me the links. I would love to listen to it. I love hip hop,
Yes.
and discovering like how distinct would be the production sound that you can make that out is something that's very interesting to me. Maybe you're that observant, or maybe that's really unique.
Honestly, I think what it is everyone talks about how distinct the LA hip hop sound is with Dr. Dre's drums. Like, it's a really distinct, like, really heavy drum. But once that was my base, that was like all I knew in terms of hip hop. So everything else sounded distinct. It's not that like hip hop had a sound and LA was distinct to me. It was more LA is the hip hop sound. Everything else is unique to me. And so like Southern hip hop like that was like, oh wow, that's really, really different. But I like it a lot.
Amazing. I would love to listen to it. This is a question we ask everyone on the podcast is, are you happy?
Yes. Yes, I am happy. Even if I was a little down right now, if I was like, because everyone gets hit with a little bit, depressive days or down days. You could be affected by the weather. Like I need sunshine. When I don't have sunshine, I'm a completely different person. When it's cloudy out, I like don't trust my own work. I don't think it's good. I notice it. I'm a different person when it's cloudy out. But even on the cloudy days, even on a cloudy day where I feel down or depressed, I live in San Diego, California. I don't have financial troubles. My family is healthy. I have great friends. If I was to ever complain or not be aware of that, like that would be incredibly ungrateful, incredibly out of touch and not in tune with the reality of the world. I have health. My family's okay. I have a good relationship with my family. Those are the things that matter.
That's a really important perspective to have because, that is something that mostly everyone has. And even then people feel lows. And that is a matter of perspective is what do you put value on? But would you say that when you do have your, kind of like lows and stuff, what do you think contributes to it? Is it work related? Is it personal related? Or, just your own tendencies?
I think I'm cyclical. And I think a lot of people are cyclical. I try and be incredibly grateful. And I focus on other people. I'm like, don't think about yourself. Don't think about your own work. Do this. And it goes really well. And I have success. And I see great things happen and positive things happen in my life. And then I slowly but surely become more narcissistic, more egotistical. Oh, I'm good at this. Oh, I don't need to gas them up. Focus on me. And then I have like an enlightening moment every 3, 4, 5 months where I'm like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Like, snap out of it. And honestly, my parents will tell me, like, dude, you're not that guy. Like, don't be like that. Like, what are you doing right now? Like, focus on other people because that's what it's supposed to be. And then I revert back and then I go back to the beginning, like basic square one. All right, focus on other people. Don't get caught up in yourself. And it's easier said than done. I think everyone thinks they're like the main character of their movie or whatever it is, but gas up the homies is the phrase. Whenever, if you're with friends, if you're with coworkers, gas them up, make them feel good, make it about them, and good things will happen.
In that journey, do you ever feel like you're neglecting your own self because you feel like you want to do what's right versus what feels right and what comes naturally to you?
Yeah, I have a hard time letting people down. So when I'll have a friend say, hey, let's hang out, but I've already told my sister that we would hang out. And so no matter what, if I go with one person, I'm letting the other person down. And then, a boyfriend or girlfriend could ask you to hang out. And then your parents are like, hey, we cooked dinner. And you're like, wow, that is so nice of you guys. But I already told my significant other that I would spend time with them. That's really hard. I don't know necessarily yet. That's the truth is I don't know. I don't know. I'm 24. I'm just trying to figure it out as we go. But that is a work in progress as we speak.
I feel like you've already halfway solved the challenges when you're aware of it, and looks like you are, and like you said, there's never a right answer. You should always trust your intuition and do what feels right, and you'll master it super soon.
It's honestly, I don't think I will. I think that'll be hard until the day we die. It's if it's not friends now, then it's family later, and then it's work or family and friends, or then it's work, then family, and then spouse, or then it's health, and then there's always going to be things that pull you in different directions. I don't think there is an answer. I think it's an ever evolving, moving piece that you just have to figure out as you go along.
I feel like over the course of time, sometimes you're able to find you're able to strike a right balance between all the things, where you don't feel like you're doing one thing at the cost of the other, like today, if you give your commitment to someone and you're canceling on someone else, you learn how to reschedule or place it differently, or maybe have them both collab and do something together. So I was actually given a really great advice by this guest I had on my podcast, Dana, who was also running a company, who was also a mom, who was also a wife, who was, like so many different things. And she said that, one thing that really helped me was accepting that every time I'm not going to be an A plus at everything. Sometimes I'm going to be an A plus wife, a D minus leader, a C plus friend, and that's okay. But the next day I will be an A plus leader, a D minus mom, and just kind of being easy on yourself and staying true to yourself. I feel like that perspective helps you strike the right balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's just hard. I just don't think there is an answer. I some days you might be able to figure out the recipe. It's a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that, whatever it might be. But the next day it'll change, and then all of a sudden, a family member could be sick, and you're like, all right, friends, I'm sorry, but the next 2 weeks, like, I have to spend time with my family. So setting boundaries, and if people love you or they want to work with you or whatever, they'll respect those boundaries and the needs that you place in front of them that are clearly valuable to you.
Well, thanks for sharing that. It sounds like any decision you make, it comes from a good place, so never can that decision be wrong. On that note, I want to ask you, was there any moment in your life that really shaped who you are as a person today, whether it was meeting like a person, reading a book, or having some sort of an experience?
I grew up in a beach town in San Diego, and so very liberal, very free spirit, very, zen and inner peace. And then I went to Missouri for college. I spent 5 years there. I knew one person at school, and we were great friends, but we kind of said, like, let's not hang out because we want to go out of our comfort zone. We want to make new friends, meet new people. Yeah, and it just, at times, it was hard not being in the town because Missouri is very different than San Diego, California. They're two very different places. So, yeah, I would just say my time in Missouri has definitely shaped a lot of me. My time at school. I know school isn't for everyone by any means, but I knew what I wanted to do. So I went to the school that had the best education for it. And it just happened to be in a place that was very different than my hometown. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful for that time. But, it wasn't easy 100% of the time being away from friends and family. But not the end of the world, just definitely something that I cherish and value were those 5 years.
And what was the biggest change that brought in your life?
I don't know, because saying weather is a really bad answer because San Diego has great weather and Missouri doesn't. But that just doesn't seem fair. Living on your own can be hard. Like living by yourself, it's just you in a building and you're really focused on work. You can easily get caught up in the like work is everything lifestyle. So I would just say the times in my life where I've actually just been living alone. I know that there's plenty of people that do that, but when you first make that move, it can be an alarming adjustment.
How's California? How do you like it? Now working at 1:37 p.m., do you ever think about making a move to New York?
I'm sure it will be discussed at some point, but I am very happy in San Diego, California. I love to surf. I love the weather. I love the food. I love to golf. It would be very, very hard for me to leave San Diego, California.
I feel like with COVID, people are really understanding that, it's not only because of COVID that we're working from home. There are a lot of jobs that actually do not require your physical presence at the office. And I feel like people are learning to let go of that mindset that you are productive when you are in front of me versus, you're not being able to do much otherwise.
Yeah, totally agree. And 137 agrees with you as well. Like, we have people all over the country. And really, as long as the work gets done, then it shouldn't matter how or where it gets done. It's getting done as long as it gets done.
Yes. And on that note, I wanted to ask you, what would you say is your dream, ambition, or your end goal?
I would love to have season tickets to my local sports team, for sure. I want good seats. That is I'm not a car, like, I don't really care about what car I have. I don't really need, like, a big mansion house. I would be very okay with a small shack almost by the beach. My two materialistic things are good seats to my local team and then shoes. I actually would really like to have a lot of shoes. And then just to be my own boss at some point. And I think 137 knows that and understands that. And, you know, when I'm 35, whatever age it might be, if I can be my own boss and make my own decisions, say this is what you want to do, it's a lot of responsibility, right? Because now you're in charge of everything. It's not easy.
Yes.
People, I think it's easier than it actually is, but being my own boss is definitely the goal. Setting my own hours, building my own boundaries, deciding kind of when and where I want to do things.
I really hope you get to do that super soon. And talking about I feel like GMG is a great place, you know, because they really know what to do with talent, and they let you be your own person. They're not trying to craft you into someone that like a part of a machine, but they want you to go thrive on your own, and that's how you're a bigger return on investment than you could be otherwise. So I feel like you're in a great place to reach where you want to be.
Well, Gary talks about it all the time. Like, what is gonna make you popular or what's gonna make people like your work is you. It's like the thing that you're embarrassed to share is the thing that's gonna make you cool and relatable and popular. So like, I'm trying to think of an example, but like Gary cusses and spells bad. You know, he has poor grammar and spelling or something like that. That's what makes Gary Gary, though. And if he wasn't that way, I don't know if people would find him as relatable as he is. So for me, trying to think of something that's embarrassing that I don't share. But at the end of the day, the thing that you're afraid to share or the thing that you're hiding from your audience is generally the thing that's going to make them like you even more.
What would you say is that thing for you?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, probably just like how close I am with my family, maybe. Like the reality is like, you know, they're like still my parents, and like my sister still cracks jokes at me, and I'm like always probably trying to like hide that from my podcast because I'm like, oh no, it's embarrassing family stuff. But the reality is people would probably enjoy it more so if I just shared it with them than hid it.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, when people are growing up with the new world, they felt like, you know, being attached to family is uncool. You know, you need to grow up and be by yourself and stuff like that. But I feel like in a world where you feel very isolated, I think having not like influential people, but, you know, like setting the example of setting the cool, you know, what's cool, what's in, and just being yourself, you know, and letting people feel very okay with that this is a decision you need to make for your own self, you know, not under like, you know, giving off some persona or under the pressure of someone else.
Yeah, and your parents or family only are on you because they care.
Yeah.
Right. If my parents ignored me or ignored my work or whatever it might be, my apologies. Then it would just mean that they don't care. The reason they're like, oh, Bo, you should do this idea for your podcast. And like, it's probably not a good idea, but I'm very appreciative that they're sharing it and they're interested and they care.
I'm super happy. Like, you're in good company. Yes. And I want to ask you, would you have any advice for young people?
I said it earlier. Make the work you want to get paid to do. Do not wait until you get the job. Do not wait until you're older. Right now, if you want to make something, if it's a song, if you were trying to become a singer, record something into your phone and make tomorrow's version better than the one you made today. Just make it a little bit better. So learn one tactic, one tool, one editing software, one program, one thing every day just to make yourself a little bit better than you were yesterday, and eventually get to the place where you're making the work you want to get paid to do would be my piece of advice.
I think that is really important because, like you said, a lot of people say that, you know, once I'm there, I'll do something. But if you start by yourself, you start building your own portfolio and start honing your own skills to actually become much closer. And on that note, you said you like collecting shoes. Are you into NFTs at all?
I haven't, I'm not confident enough. I'm interested, and my curiosity is very there in NFTs, but I'm also really patient and frugal, and I don't like jumping into things. I don't like putting my money into places. I'm very cautious. My interest is there, my curiosity is there. I've helped work on a lot of NFT content, but I'm just patient, kind of keeping my eye on things, and I think the moment I find the NFT project that I want to invest in, I will do it. I'm just waiting and trying to be a little patient on it because it feels like every person that's really into it knows more than I do, and I don't think being the dumb person in the group is a good idea.
Not at all. I actually just got my first NFT last night. I was able to actually mint it real time. And I'm a person who does not even understand Discord. I was on 4 Discord groups and I was like, I still don't know how to use this shit. But
Yes.
I found, because I was listening to a lot of people I trust, like Gary. I don't know if you know who Face Banks is, the owner of Face Clan. Logan is someone, and these are people I've been learning a lot from for the past so many years. And when they say something, they've always been at the top of culture. So obviously the projects they were talking about were crazy. They were for like $100,000. I'm like, that's not for people like us. But I watched a lot of YouTube videos just to educate myself, and I want to send you those 2 YouTube videos which were talking about how to find NFTs early. And you are able to recognize and see a pattern. So how I found my first NFT was I minted it real time, so I got it for like super cheap. And it was to look at their community. You look at their Twitter followers and their Discord followers. Anyone that has more than 2,000, 3,000 followers, they already have a pretty good community. And on Discord, you're able to see that they're live. Also something like how many projects they're releasing. It's important for it to be a large number, like 10,000. And then you got to see how many owners does it have. Anything where you feel like when you divide the number by the number of owners, if you feel like anyone owns more than 5 tokens, that's not a very good plan, because you want as many people as possible to be part of the community. And once you watch those videos, you start making notes. And there's a website called Rarity Tools. So that's where all the NFT projects are being listed, whatever's on the rise. And you start creeping up on their Twitter and their Discord, and you start understanding, because you've been in the social media game, so you'll understand how authentic an audience is, and accordingly you can start that project. And like Gary says, do your homework, and you'd be surprised as to there's so many people who don't know what they're doing. And you got to look at couple of things. What I looked at was how good the community is, how responsive they are. Second, I looked up what is their vision, who are the people behind it, because it's essentially an IP game, like what do they plan to do with those characters, the asset that I would own. And the third is if I actually like the art. And because if you actually end up with something that does not do well, that does not get listed like crazy, you'll just be cursing yourself. But if you actually like the art, it's going to be a very, very great educational experience for you to learn how to interact with NFTs. Because even Visa buying the whole NFT thing, that companies are going to start embracing, like concert tickets or even sports game tickets might be NFTs from a couple of years from now. So you're getting an early start, and being a part of these pioneer projects will be a really cool experience for you.
The other thing that I've learned a little bit is utility. What comes with the NFT. If it's just artwork, a lot of people say to kind of avoid it. But if the artwork comes with, you get to meet the artist, or if you hold this artwork, it means you get to go to this restaurant, like Gary Vee's opening the NFT restaurant. Yeah. If there's utility to it, makes it even more interesting, because then there's something tangible there. There's like you can hold that in your hand, which is interesting. But the thing is if I like the artwork, I become attached to things. So even like shoes, like I bought these shoes a year and a half, a pair of Jordans. And I was like, all right, I'll flip them. And then I haven't flipped them, and they're just staying in my closet because I don't want to get rid of them. So that is also an issue. I'm gonna have to work on that as well.
Well, you win both sides. If you flipped it, you'd make your money. But even if you didn't, you genuinely like it. So having that and looking at that and making you happy is also contributing to, your W, if that makes sense. But I'm going to send you those 2 YouTube videos. I'm sure they might give you a lot of context as to how to dive into NFTs.
Please do.
I want to ask you, is there anything that you would like to ask me?
How many episodes have you recorded?
About like 35 episodes.
Okay. What do you think will be the biggest difference between episode 35 and episode 100?
That's a great question. I think episode 1, I was completely clueless as to what I was doing. I remember the first time I scheduled it, I did not even know how to screen record. So I was asking this guy, I'm like, hey, thank you for coming on, but I'm not sure if this is recording. And he was just the most amazing person. And we were able to build a great community. But I feel like Gary just said, do your podcast. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. I don't know what I'm good at. I'm going to just start tasting things. And the more I was doing, the more direction I started kind of paving my way. And like you said, when you were speaking about how you got that role at GMG, that was also a very big unlock for me, because I wanted to move to LA initially, but then my goals had changed when I was studying about GMG as a company. And then the podcast became a way to network with people. And now the podcasts are super interesting. I love speaking with people, having a good connection. But the long-term game is to build that network, I was looking at people who were in GMG, or, who were decision makers there, to learn from them, what is it that I can fill the gap, or so that I can learn from them, and, have this whole value exchange and stuff like that. So, but to answer your question, I feel like episodes now are much more strategic. I'm much more happy when I'm doing it. I'm not super concerned about how good it's gonna go. I really care about people. I feel like, I want to know their stories. I'm able to get as much value, and I feel like I'm able to give value as well. And I feel like I'm much more happy, confident, and feel like I believe in this so much more. And I feel like this is leading to something really big. Versus episode 1, I was just like, I don't know what this is. So I feel like that is kind of the difference.
That's exciting. Who would be, you can't say Gary, but who would be the dream guest for episode 100?
I think so many people have really looked up to, and I feel like maybe one of them would be, people might make fun of me, but one of them would be Jake Paul. I've actually studied Jake as a business person more than him as a content creator. And I feel like me getting into content and me getting into YouTube and stuff started with him. Like, he was able to show me what one person is capable of, irrespective of where you're from, irrespective of how young you are, irrespective of you being a one-man army, and irrespective of no one believing in you, and you're continue to rising like a phoenix. I feel like that is something that he showed me, and I like to, learn a lot from him. So maybe him.
I like that answer. I like that answer a lot.
Thank you. And how excited are you about the Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley fight, since you were super into MMA and stuff?
I'm interested with these kind of fights, because this isn't the Olympic gold match where we're looking for the most skilled person, right? Or this is entertainment, purely entertainment. So I put it in comparison with other forms of entertainment. I don't put it in comparison to other premier boxing matches. So I think that's a big mistake, is that a lot of people are comparing it to that. I don't think you should. Compare it to going to the movies, or compare it to watching a sports game during the regular season. Compare it to going on a walk. Compare it to other forms of whatever your entertainment is. And this week, so with the Ben Askren Jake Paul fight, I was excited at first because I thought it would be goofy and fun. And then as the fight got closer, I was like, not that interested. This one, it got announced, and I was like, it is what it is. But now as we get closer, I'm like, oh, you know what? These two guys are kind of funny. They're entertaining. I'm a little more interested this week than I was 3 weeks ago.
Why would you say it's like an entertainment show? I remember Logan Paul versus Mayweather, he completely declared that it's an exhibition fight. Mayweather even said that we will not be announcing a winner. But don't you feel like when Jake and Tyron are fighting, it is a level to judge both of their skills on who is better than the other?
That's probably true, but Tyron Woodley is not a boxer. He's an MMA fighter who is competing in his first boxing match at 37 years old. To me, I'm not that interested in seeing a 37-year-old compete for the first time in a sport against other people. That isn't of interest to me to see that. Now, I'm just naturally entertained and naturally interested in this entertainment, but if you just look at it at face value, which is a celebrity is fighting another pro athlete, both very early on in their careers in these stages. If you were to say it's not boxing, say it's rock climbing, who can climb to the top of the rock faster? You have a celebrity versus a football player or something like that who can climb to the top, it's entertainment, but in no way would I say that that's like a rock climbing contest, if that makes sense. Because a rock climbing contest would be the best rock climbers competing against the best rock climbers at the highest heights with the biggest drops, the hardest rocks to grab. Whereas this, you're watching something else. Not that it's not entertaining. I'm not saying it's not entertaining. I'm just saying it's not pro boxing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like you feel like, yeah, it's kind of unfair to compare the two. They're very like one is traditional, I won't say like respectful or not, but has very different parameters as to how you will judge that fight. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I want to answer that one question. I was just thinking about it also when you said what would be the biggest difference between your first podcast and the 100. And I feel like the first one, when I was doing it, I was like, I'm doing a podcast. It was all about doing a podcast. But the more I'm doing it, it's become of, like my podcast is called Building Community. And I feel like I'm building a community now. And I feel like that has become difference. Like you said, like the more you work at something, the more convinced you get. And I feel like one is much more convinced the more reps you put in.
Alright. I like that. Yeah, that's the confidence builder. The work itself is the confidence builder. I don't think it's what you're like when you walk away from episode 35 today. I don't think your confidence is in, episode 35 was good today, so I'm confident about episode 36. I think you leave episode 35 and you say, wow, the last 35 episodes, I've put in 2 hours of research on each podcast. I've done an hour of recording and I've done an hour of editing on each one. That combined is what's giving you the confidence, not the direct result or direct product that you receive most recently, if that makes sense. So it's the whole story is what's giving you the confidence.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because so many times you can't see results in the short term, but over a course of time you see that yes, those small things became the big thing. And last two questions. One I want to ask you, is there anything in specific that you would like to talk about?
Not particularly. I honestly have really enjoyed this. So I'm very happy with what we've done, and we've talked about a lot of things of interest to me. So no, I'm very, very happy with the way this has gone. You haven't really missed anything yet.
Awesome. Super happy to hear that. And on that note, last question would be, would you have any feedback for the podcast? Any way that we could have done better or improved?
I had to download Skype.
I'm sorry.
That is my only bugaboo. How about that? I will give you that. I had to download Skype to do it. Which was very easy. It took me 2 minutes, so I'm not actually complaining about downloading Skype. I am telling you, though, that is my most negative feedback for you, is that I had not had Skype downloaded.
I see. Well, thank you. Like Zoom is something that you have to pay for. It's a feature, and I feel like since it's a visual podcast, Skype acts as like a great interface to screen record. So, but I'll try and work that out someday.
Yes, and I'm more teasing than anything, but yes, that is my feedback for you.
Well, Bo, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for saying yes, and thank you so much for doing this. Please let me know if any way I can add value in the future.
No, thank you. Very, very thoughtful questions. I'm appreciative of the time. It was very, very kind of you. You're a very good host.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot coming from you. So thanks, Bo. Please keep in touch, and I'll hit you up as soon as the podcast goes up. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye-bye.